Whether it's due to media coverage, their draft spot, or a great college career, sometimes NFL players are hyped up to be elite tier material, but end up being as disappointing as the Dallas Cowboys every time they enter a field. We're talking about the league's overhyped and overpaid players, and remember, this is an entirely personal opinion. Stick around as we look at the most overrated player on every NFL team entering 2020. Arizona Cardinals. Well, we have to start somewhere. There's really nothing overrated with the Cardinals, except for Larry Fitzgerald and Patrick Peterson, but we're gonna go with Peterson on this one. Sure, he was a great cornerback once, maybe in 2011, but his plays have seriously declined since. And sure, he's been to 8 Pro Bowls, but that's what makes him overrated. Plus, with his suspension for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy, he's basically wearing an L on his forehead. Atlanta Falcons. It's Matt Ryan. Now hear us out. A $150 million 5-year extension with the Falcons in 2018 is the definition of overrated. He's been in the game since 2008 and only had one MVP. One great 2016 season doesn't automatically make you elite, guys. What makes someone elite is consistency, and consistency is not in his repertoire. Sorry to say it, he's a solid player, but an overrated one. Baltimore Ravens. Earl Thomas. He was undeniably one of the league's best defensive backs for years, but the safety is just not what he used to be. Not to mention the 4-year, $55 million contract with $32 million guaranteed he signed last year just screams overpaid, considering his 49 tackles last season and coming off a 2018 devastating leg injury. Thomas is on the decline. Buffalo Bills. It's Ed Oliver. With a successful college career as a Houston Cougar, there was a lot of hype surrounding this defensive tackle, and he went 9th overall in the 2019 draft. But it's safe to say the Bills are probably incredibly disappointed, especially now with that DWI on his record. The rookie barely made a splash on the field and ultimately struggled. The Bills are probably kicking themselves for offering him a 4-year, $19 million contract. Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton. Just kidding. Too soon? It's Terry Bridgewater or Matt Paradis. We're going with Paradis. Before he was scooped up by the Panthers for a 3-year, $27 million contract, Paradis was widely viewed as one of the best interior offensive linemen in the NFL. Scoring Paradis seemed like a good move at the time for the Panthers, but he's been a total disaster when you consider production versus salary for a not even top 10 center. Chicago Bears. Khalil Mack. Controversial? Sure. Is the defensive hyped-up player worth his 2018 6-year, $141 million extension? Well, is any defensive player worth that much? He recorded 8.5 sacks last season, so we're gonna go with no. Cincinnati Bengals. AJ Green. The wide receiver, who is yet to sign his franchise tag tender, has fallen off the wagon of the elite receivers. With an ankle injury that sidelined him for the entirety of 2019, his stats have ultimately fallen since he averaged over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns in his first 5 NFL seasons. Cleveland Browns. Wow. Odell or Jarvis? Best friend against best friend. It's close, guys, but we're going with Jarvis Landry. For someone who is being paid like the #1 receiver, he sure isn't playing like it. That might have to do with his hip problems, but he's overhyped for sure. Dallas Cowboys. Everyone! But mostly Dak Prescott. Why would the Cowboys think anyone is worth a contract averaging more than $30 million? He's good, and he deserves a good contract, but he relies too much on his offensive to be considered an elite quarterback. Denver Broncos. This one goes to Melvin Gordon. Being overrated is one thing, but overrating yourself is a whole other ballgame. He held out, passing on the Chargers' offer of $10 million annually because he thought he deserved better and ended up with a 2-year, $8 million annual average with the Broncos. His career has been inconsistent, only playing one 16-game season in his career and averaging under 4 yards per carry in 4 out of his 5 seasons. Detroit Lions. Trey Flowers, this is all yours. The defensive end was given $90 million last offseason to come over from the Patriots for 5 years. $90 million for a player who has not recorded more than 7.5 sacks in any of his first 4 NFL seasons? Interesting choice. Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers. Come on, guys, even the Packers know Rodgers' time is up, which is why they drafted Jordan Love. Houston Texans, David Johnson. Do we want to talk about that Hopkins trade? That alone makes him the most overrated player on the Texans for sure, especially considering he hasn't had a good year since 2016 when he led the NFL with 2,118 yards from scrimmage. Indianapolis Colts, Phillip Rivers. He's just not in his prime anymore, and there's a reason the Chargers said their goodbyes. The quarterback was a highly coveted free agent this year, which shows he's overrated considering he just came off a season in which he posted an overall PFF grade of just 74.3, number 17th in the league. He's almost 39, so it makes sense. Jacksonville Jaguars, Leonard Fournette. Look, he's fine, but when you think about how the Jaguars picked him 4th overall back in 2017, you have to feel a little bad. Kansas City Chiefs, Sammy Watkins. $15 million a year for what? Average stats? In 2018, he had 3 touchdowns and 40 catches, finishing with 13 yards per reception. His 2019 season was marginally better, but that's because he played in more games. This wide receiver is definitely overpaid, and he's on the hype train going nowhere fast. Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr. Sit back and let us take you back to 2014 when Carr's name was always said with excitement and promise. He had a few good seasons and even signed a 5-year, $125 million contract extension in 2017. Was that worth it? No. If the Raiders want any sort of success, they need to move on from the quarterback who peaked in 2016. Los Angeles Chargers, Hunter Henry. Sure, he's good when he's healthy, but when is he healthy? There's a lot of buzz regarding his potential, but with his track record of being sidelined, it looks like he, unfortunately, will never live up to it. Los Angeles Rams. No one? We guess this can go to Gerald Everett, who was a second-round pick in 2017 and has been poised for a breakout year in each of the last 3 seasons, but it is yet to happen. Why? Injuries maybe, or maybe he's just not as good as people think he could be. Miami Dolphins. Okay, wait for it. Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, we know, but the 5th overall pick of the 2020 NFL Draft had 3 surgeries in just 1.5 seasons as a college starter. He's good, but he is definitely overhyped considering he might not last long on the field. Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. According to an anonymous survey of 85 defensive players from around the NFL conducted by The Athletic in 2019, Cousins is viewed as the most overrated quarterback in the league. That's awkward. Maybe it's because of his wildly overpaid $84 million contract? Unsure. It's just a lot of money to pay someone who boasts the lowest quarterback rating in the NFL when inside the opponent's 10-yard line. New England Patriots. Cam Newton? Sure, but we think everyone realized how overrated he was back in 2016, so we're giving this one to their whole defense team. Just kidding. Dante Hightower. The veteran is not as fast as he once was, and his numbers have been decreasing each season. New Orleans Saints. We're giving this one to Malcolm Jenkins, who is back with the Saints after having his best years in Philadelphia. Let's see how it goes. New York Giants. It has to be wide receiver Golden Tate. If his brief stint with the Eagles where he averaged just 9.3 yards per catch and 34.8 yards per game isn't reason enough to believe he's overrated, then we can't help you. And why anyone thought it was a good idea to pay him $37.5 million for 4 years is questionable. New York Jets. Le'Veon Bell. The overhyped running back was considered the best of the best a few years back, but he just isn't what he used to be. Sure, we could blame his teammates, but when you're averaging an extremely poor 3.2 yards per carry and 4 yards per touch in the 2019 season, we're gonna put the blame on you. Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry, Alshon Jeffrey, we're giving this to you. His status as a number 1 wide receiver doesn't make much sense when you look at his stats. He has only 2 1,000-yard seasons over his 8-year career, and his last was in 2014. His health is a whole other thing too. Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster? No, we're giving this one to Alejandro Villanueva. Can he perform well now that Ramon Foster has announced his retirement? We're unsure. With a career high of 10 penalties and his run blocking being disappointing at best, this left tackle is overrated in our books. San Francisco 49ers. Sorry 49ers fans, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whose relationship with injuries is becoming his most solid one. Seattle Seahawks. Jarran Reed gets this one. The defensive tackle had a breakout 2018 season with 10.5 sacks, but his 2019 season left little to be desired, making the Seahawks' $23 million splurge on Reed a little overrated. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This team definitely wins the most overrated team going into the 2020 season, but who is its most overrated player? Tom Brady? No, we're giving this one to the best tight end of all time, Rob Gronkowski. He came out of retirement like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and fans and players rejoiced in one big circle jerk. That's why he's our most overrated. We're doing this for you. Tennessee Titans. Welcome Vic Beasley. The linebacker is hoping to revitalize his career after just being signed by the Titans. This is largely to do with his inconsistent seasons, which have been disappointing from a first-round pick. He was praised prior to the 2015 draft for being an extraordinary athlete who was always first off the snap, but his career never really took off. Washington something or other. The team with the most anticipated name change since forever has its most overrated player in the form of cornerback Kendall Fuller. Why he was signed to a long-term contract of $40 million is beyond us due to his injuries and subpar stats. 0 interceptions and 49 combined tackles in 2019, anyone? We hope you guys are doing okay and aren't too mad at us for this list. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for 10 years of good luck.